Hello everybody, it is Voodoo here, and welcome to another episode of a series that I call Voodoo's Verdict, which is my honest and thorough game review series. And the game that we're going to be taking a look at in this episode is the second ever game that I will be reviewing on the new generation of consoles. For me, that is the PlayStation 4. It is in a game that is in direct competition with the first game that I reviewed for the PlayStation 4. And this game is Battlefield 4 from DICE and published by EA. So Battlefield 4 is obviously the follow-up to the game Battlefield 3, which came out in 2011 and was supposed to kind of relaunch the Battlefield name and try to launch them in direct competition with Call of Duty, which I believe they have done successfully. I think when people think about the war FPS with the intense multiplayer, they think Call of Duty versus Battlefield. So Battlefield, with these two releases, I feel have at least, opened a competition with Call of Duty and is vaulted into, basically the other top game in this genre. So I already reviewed Call of Duty Ghosts this year, so I'm going to be talking about Battlefield 4. I'm not going to be mentioning anything about Call of Duty Ghosts because I already reviewed it. I'm not going to be comparing the two or anything like that. That's for a potential later video. But Battlefield 4, the game modes, you've got two. You've got your campaign game mode, and you've got your multiplayer game modes. And obviously, the reasons people buy Battlefield 4 is for the multiplayer, not for the campaign. They buy it for the multiplayer. But we are going to talk about the campaign. We're going to talk about the campaign first of all. So the campaign of Battlefield 4, just as you would expect, the length is very short. It's between 4 to 5 hours long. And really, the campaign of this game is, I almost want to say, completely superfluous and useless. It is a very blasé, boring campaign. It is set up in the most boring possible way. Once again, you're part of an elite squad of soldiers who are, the go-to guys to get things done in the U.S. Army. You're fighting the Russians, you're fighting the Chinese. Basically, the overarching plot here is that there's a military leader in China who's trying to stage a coup and take over China, and then if they do that, they'll gain support from Russia. And obviously, anytime Russia is involved and they're making allies, it's a problem for the United States in these games. And so you can't let this guy, whose name is Chang, I know it couldn't be any more, just not racist, but stereotype of a name. Chang, really? That's the best you got, is Chang for the Chinese military leader, but that's his name. And you can't let him basically take control of China. And so the whole 4 to 5 hours you'll be playing the campaign, you'll be trying to do different things to stop him from doing that. Rescuing certain VIPs, trying to protect them, blowing up strategic points like airfields or battleships owned by the enemy. And it's just paint by numbers, boring, completely unforgettable. Completely forgettable, not unforgettable. Completely forgettable and completely not memorable campaign. And it is just your typical what you would expect. Walk into rooms, clear out rooms of enemies with your gun, and that's basically it. Assault rifles, snipers, grenades, the whole deal. You know what to expect from the gameplay of a game like Battlefield. You just do. And not only is the campaign miserably boring and bland and just not fun at all to play, half the time it doesn't even work right. And there was one part of the game where I got to the same point in the campaign about 3 times in a row, and every time I got to this point, my PlayStation 4 would crash. I had to play through the sequence about 4 different times in order for the game to get past that point without the game crashing. And there's just problems like this throughout the campaign. Now, really, in all honesty, if it wasn't for this review and for another thing that I'm going to talk about later in the review, I wouldn't even care about this campaign. I wouldn't even play it. I wouldn't even touch it. It's worthless. It doesn't need to be in the game. It adds nothing. There's really no entertainment value in the campaign of Battlefield 4. Just to be blatantly honest with everybody, there's not much to talk about here because it's not much of anything worth noting. What is worth noting is, of course, the expansive multiplayer. And this is where Battlefield shines. It's where it has shined, and this is why people buy the game. This is why I bought the game, was for the multiplayer. Pretty classic Battlefield multiplayer. You've got your big map modes, your classic Conquest mode, which is a gigantic map, up to 64 players, supposedly on PS4 when it's working. We'll talk about that. Of basically a big domination-style game mode. Rush, which is a classic Battlefield mode where you're supposed to be either on the offensive, going to arm two objective bombs on the map, and if they blow up, you move on to a new objective of bombs until you've blown them all up. Or if you're the defense, try to whittle down the tickets that the attacking team has, meaning lives that they have, basically, taking away all their lives before they can blow up the bombs, and you win that way. You've got classic team deathmatch on the smaller versions of these bigger maps, and you have other game modes as well here, squad-based modes and things like that in Battlefield 4. Basically, your classic multiplayer modes. But for some reason, and I don't exactly know why, but I enjoyed the multiplayer Battlefield 4 a hell of a lot more than I did for Battlefield 3, which I really didn't really care for or was too impressed by it. But the scope of this game in the multiplayer, the way that it feels just like a much more realistic type of multiplayer where you have to actually be somewhat skilled using the guns and sniper rifles because of bullet drop and things like that. The fact that the graphics in the game are absolutely stunning. It is next gen, and they look absolutely amazing on the PlayStation 4. The destructible environments, the weather changes, all that kind of stuff is really amazing. And the use of vehicles and all that, it's just really well done and fun in this game. And you can have endless hours of fun playing the multiplayer of Battlefield 4. There's a good number of maps. To be honest with you, I'm not really blown away by any of the maps. The maps aren't necessarily the most exciting things I've ever played, but they're enjoyable. You kind of have your pick. You can play the big maps if you're into that kind of stuff, or you can play the more traditional, smaller maps, the objective-based maps, or the team deathmatch, which is really usually what I play when I just play by myself without friends. And it just seems like overall a pretty balanced game. There are a couple of guns that have been used. One in particular I can think of called the Ace, that seems to be very overpowered. But for the most part, it seems to be pretty balanced. The loadouts are very in-depth. You've got different classes in Battlefield 4 that give you different special items and equipment you can use. You can be a medic or a soldier or an engineer, and you can have different items and abilities depending on which class you are. And as you level up your different abilities, you level up your character. So it's it's a very in-depth, very fun multiplayer. I got a lot of fun out of it. I'm still getting fun out of it. I'm enjoying it. However, there has been massive problems with this game running, and only recently was there a patch put out for it on PS4 to try and address some of these problems, which is just way too long. The game's been out way too long for them to take this long to release a patch. But gigantic server issues with the game. I know that the large Conquest mode, the 64-player multiplayer, just wasn't working for a long time on PS4. There has been so many problems reported with the multiplayer of this game since it's been released that it's been coming under a lot of fire, and DICE has taken forever to try to get a patch out to resolve some of these issues. Why it's taken that long, I don't know. I couldn't tell you, but there's just been a lot of problems. There was a time where every time I tried to open the battle log in-game, it would crash my game. It wasn't registering the fact that I had friends playing online when I did, so it never informed me that friends were playing online even though they were. So there's just been a lot of problems and and I mean, you can look this stuff up on the internet about all the issues that have been going on with Battlefield 4 for PS4. This patch has just come out. I guess we'll see in the long run if it is addressing some of these issues. But we don't. I guess we don't really know right now the outcome of that. So if you're thinking about purchasing this game, you might want to do some additional research online to find out about these problems and whether or not this patch that's been released is addressing and fixing some of these problems. Otherwise, you might want to stay away. But other than that, I can't give that much more of an in-depth review of the game. I mean, Battlefield, everybody should really kind of know, just like Call of Duty, everybody should kind of know now with Battlefield what to expect here. Now, some of the thing that I mentioned earlier, the reason you have to play the campaign is because for some reason they made the asinine decision that some guns, I should say, in the multiplayer, you cannot unlock them until you reach a certain part in the campaign. So DICE forces you to play their boring, uninspired, sometimes barely working campaign to unlock things in the multiplayer. That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. There's no reason that you should force people to play your campaign that no one really wants to play to unlock guns in the multiplayer. That's just stupid, and why in the world would you do that? I have no idea. It's asinine. So guess what? If you want to unlock all the guns in the multiplayer in Battlefield 4, you better be prepared to play the boring campaign and suffer through it, because you have to, or else you can't unlock all the guns. It's stupid, makes absolutely no sense to me. Talk to DICE about it. I can't tell you why they made that decision. It's a dumb one. So, but again, reviewing the game, campaign, I can barely even take that into consideration. It's worthless. There's no reason to have the campaign in there. So really, if you buy Battlefield, even though you'll be forced to play the campaign, and suffer through it, you know, normally I could just eliminate the campaign from my score because you could just choose not to play it. But since you have to play the campaign anyway to unlock guns, it factors into my score about how bad and boring it was. Other than that, really good in-depth multiplayer, but that's only the only mode really that is in there that's any substance is multiplayer. So basically, you're buying a multiplayer-only game. Even though there is a lot of depth to it, there's a lot of different modes. You know, big map, small map. You can kind of cater it to your needs. More realistic gameplay. You can't like sprint through people's bullets and just knife them in the face and get a kill, because there's actually counter knifing in this game, to where if you try to stab somebody who's facing you, they have a window of opportunity to also click the melee button and reverse your melee attack and steal your knife and kill you with it. So it makes it a little bit more realistic, and you can't just charge through people's bullets to try to kill them. Yeah, I mean, especially if you have friends to play this game with, it's a ton of fun, and you can have a riot and play it for hours. So, you know, there's going to be plenty of DLCs coming out for it if you want to get more maps and stuff. And other than that, there's not too much to talk about with Battlefield 4. It is what it is. Fun multiplayer, pointless campaign, but they force you to play it to unlock stuff in the multiplayer. Makes no sense to me. So, but again, I have to take into consideration too, with the rating, how many problems this game has had over this launch cycle. It's just had so many issues online that was really unacceptable to launch with, and then to have this long of a time before it's addressed in a patch is really getting unacceptable. So I have to take that in consideration as well. So my final score for Battlefield 4, I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10, because really there is no significant single player, there's no cooperative modes or anything like that. It's just the multiplayer, and although it's fun, it forces you to play the campaign, which sucks, and it's got massive problems that it's probably going to take a while for it to be figured out. So, in total, all things considered, my final score for Battlefield is a 7.5 out of 10. And that's that. You might want to do some further research, like I said, on the multiplayer issues before you actually buy this game. So, other than that, that's really all I got to say about this game. Hope you enjoyed what I had to tell you. Not the most exciting or interesting game review, but not the most exciting or interesting game, to be honest. It's pretty cut and dry. So, thank you guys very much for watching. Let me know in the comments how you like this review, and I'll be coming to you in the future with many more of these. So, thanks again for watching, and peace out.